Hi. Hello.
Mangala, please share the presentation and the associated files from yesterday's presentation. It is out of the world.
I
have sent it, sir. Already it is there with Dr. Radhika. It's there.
Yeah, it is very good. Congrats. It is very, very good.
Thank you, sir. As usual, all his presentations.
Hi.
Mangala, please share.
the visuals were also really very.
running low.
Can we take a photo of all then in the gallery view? Everybody is here.
Yeah, sure.
Can everybody please switch on the video, please?
Ajit Krishnan.
Sir,
ഒന്ന് വിളിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞോ.
ഞാൻ പറയാം സാറിന്റെ അജിത് സർ വീഡിയോ ഒന്ന് ഓൺ ആക്കോ സർ.
He has lost connectivity, I think. It's come back. Ready? Thank you.
Shall we start then? I think Ketaki, we can start.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are here for the third day of 27th annual conference of NNF Kerala, that is Neocon 2021. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here for the virtual gathering amidst this COVID pandemic. Today we are having a few enlightening sessions on a presumed to be so-called difficult topic, that is approach to medical research. For this discussion, we are fortunate enough to have three doyens of neonatology, that is Dr. V.C. Manoj sir, then Dr. Mangala Bharti sir, and the next hour Dr. Naveen Jain sir. Today's session will be moderated and chaired by a few famous and renowned personalities, that is Dr. Ajit Krishnan sir and Dr. Binu Govind sir. First personality which is everyone knows and doesn't require any more introduction, that is Dr. Ajit Krishnan sir. Sir is professor and head of Department of Pediatrics in the SATH Hospital, Trivandrum, and a past president of IAP Intensive Care Chapter. Sir is also a member of School Board and School of Public Health, KUHS. The next chairperson we are having is Dr. Binu Govind sir. Sir has done his DM neonatology from CMC Vellore Hospital, and sir is currently a consultant neonatologist in the Lifeline Hospital. He's a former associate professor in the CMC Vellore, and sir has got many publications, and sir has done extensive work in the areas of neonatology. So I welcome Dr. Beenu Govind sir and Dr. Ajit Krishnan sir, and thank a lot to both of you for spending such time for us. And here again, we are fortunate enough to have our Dr. PMC Nair sir. Sir has done his DM from the Chandigarh PG at Chandigarh, and we are thankful, sir, for sparing your such a valuable time for us. Uh, uh, Ma'am, shall we start with the first session with Dr. VC Manoj, sir?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Ajit Krishnan. I thank PMC Nair sir, Radhika and Mrinal and the organizers of this conference for giving me this opportunity. I feel happy that this conference includes a session on the minimal essential of research methodology. Basically, the knowledge about research methodology and practicing evidence-based medicine will make you a good clinician. And it is very nice to hear from these brilliant neonatologists regarding the basics of research methodology. I invite Dr. VC Manoj for the first talk, Basics of Research Methodology. Over to Dr. Manoj.
Good afternoon, everybody. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, respected seniors and my dear friends, now in the next 20 minutes or so, we would like to just have an introduction into the so-called, somebody was saying the so-called difficult world of research, whereas if you go systematically, probably that is a very erroneous statement. Because whatever concept, once your basics are clear, probably it is not so difficult a topic. So the first step when you go on to this is the understanding the basics. And to make it in an applied format, we would just like to suppose you want to read a research paper. How do you proceed? In this, we'll try to explain the basic concepts itself. So today, as we all know, neonatology especially is a area where recent advances keep creeping up, and the practice of neonatal care, especially in the intensive setting, becomes highly challenging. And we in this era always talk about evidence-based medicine. So how do we apply neonatology to evidence-based medicine, and what are the practical difficulties involved? So just briefly mentioning this, we'll start the discussion. What is evidence-based medicine? We all know that we should make a conscientious effort to base our clinical decisions on research that is most likely to be free from bias and using interventions most likely to improve how long or well our babies live. So this is probably a practical definition, and if you are going to apply this principle, three things are going to determine how you are going to manage a baby. Your individual expertise, how, because once you have the knowledge, the wisdom is what will help you to get this. And what does the patient want? So the patient values and expectation, and on top of it, what is the best external evidence available? Until you club all these three, you are not going to practice evidence-based medicine in neonatology. So the challenge is in getting the best external evidence in your scenario. How do I do this? Especially in today's world, it's highly challenging. This is the data from 2007. Every day, 75 trials and 11 systematic reviews being published at that time. I'm sure it must be 10 times that now. So with this number of articles that are being published every day going up, how are we going to find, where is going to be the truth? What is going to be relevant for you? How do we find the appropriate studies? Of course, we need to search the papers. So we should have a methodology to search the papers. What do we look for and where do we look? If you want to know what you should, of course, you should know what you're going to look at. When you're going to see a study, the first question that you're going to ask is this study relevant for me? And is this study design good enough for me, or rather good enough for what I'm looking for? And was it done properly? And is it relevant to my settings? So let's try to answer these. Is this study relevant for me? The first thing, whenever you are going to ask a question, the question has to be very, very specific. Suppose you want to start using a novel mode of non-invasive ventilation called nasal HFO. The specific questions can be, is nasal HFO safe and feasible in my setting? Is nasal HFO superior to CPAP, the gold standard of non-invasive ventilation? Can I use nasal HFO to provide non-invasive ventilator support in an extreme preterm? The questions can vary like this. The first thing when you analyze this is going to be, you are going to look at the PICOT. Any study will have a basic skeleton, the PICOT. All of us know that. And this is what is going to define your studies. PICOT, P stands for the population that you're going to study. I stands for the intervention, and C stands for what is it that you're going to compare intervention with. Suppose the previous question that I asked you is a 28 below 20 extreme preterm babies. If you want to use nasal HFO, your problem is, or rather population is preterm neonates born before 28 weeks, extreme preterm babies, and the intervention that you're going to look at is nasal HFO, and you're going to compare it with the gold standard CPAP. Now that is not good enough. PIC is not enough. The outcome is what is going to actually define your studies. And we all know any study is assessed, the statistical adequacy is assessed based on the primary outcome. So primary outcome is what you're going to design a study on. Even when you design a study, that's a different topic. When you're going to design a study, you need to know the sample size that is required for relevant significance in whenever you do the maths. So the primary outcome is what is going to determine that. So you need to know what is the primary outcome. So here I can name the primary outcome as a failure of the mode, or I can put the primary outcome as the extubation failure, or I can put it as incidence of BPD, anything. So based on that, the whole study has to be relooked. And of course, we would like to look at the other outcomes also, but that is not going to affect the way your methodology is going to be designed. So the secondary outcomes can be anything and everything that is relevant to the topic, which are feasible for you. After having defined your P, I, C, and O, you need to look at what is the type of study, how long am I going to take it. So the type of study is the important aspect of the research, which we will come to subsequently. And then the duration, you have to really, like, if you are going to design a study, it should be feasible. When you're going to look at a study, again, the time frame in which they are done should be relevant to your settings. We'll come to the relevance subsequently also. So as I said, the question, there has to be a clear research question, and the question that is asked in the study has to be an answerable question. There are various questions. So if based on that, if the question is vague, sometimes even though it may be a good paper, sometimes you may not be able to make much out of the significance of that paper. So relevant questions can be, does this intervention work or not work? Or how does it work? Who does it work or not work for? How does this work? Is this intervention appropriate in this setting? Is the intervention feasible in this setting? And then, of course, is the intervention comparison that I'm going to do or that I'm going to look at in the study are relevant to you. Now, so the one important question that crept up is, how good is the type of study? We said PICOT, the T stands for type of study, and we know there are a variety of studies. So I would just try to put it in a practical perspective. So based on the acceptability of studies, you have the various studies arranged in a sort of pyramid, which was called as evidence-based pyramid, and the highest form of evidence will come on top, and that is, as per the type alone, it can be a systematic review. The next would be a randomized control trial, which you do. It can be a single center or a multi-center randomized control trial. When you're not going to randomize a population, it can be a cohort study, or if you don't have, most of the time what is happening in neonatology is we do not have systematic reviews for all the questions that we ask. This is because this is a relatively new subject and the interventions keep creeping up. The newer ones keep coming up, and then it is very difficult sometimes to find the systematic review to start your practice. So you need to go for lower forms of evidence like a case control study, and then if nothing is there, what we used to do 20 years ago is to go by expert opinion and base a practice. So the higher forms of evidence you have, you are on more stronger grounds, and probably when you have information like an RCT, you can do an RCT cohort study case control, that is actually unfiltered. It is done by a group. Now if somebody is going to filter it and take out all the trash and take the cream of it, it can either be you actually take an article and then go to critically appraise it, that is article synopsis, or you can do a critical appraisal of a topic, that is evidence synthesis. Now if you're going to do more than that, as we discuss subsequently, what you're going to do is a systematic review. So we need to choose the best, which is the best type of, I would not say the best type of study for you, but conventionally, the acceptably, which is the best type of study you can look at. And of course, most of us will say systematic reviews. Now, what is systematic review? Systematic review is the pi code. I said any study you have to define by P, and P, population in this, is the various studies. Each study is a number. So you collect all the studies, and this group of study is a population on which you are going to do the research. So literature is the subject of research, and you're going to gather some information which is actually qualitative information. We all know now, until you have qualitative evidence, probably we are not justified in our practice. Now, systematic reviews can be again of two types. If you are going to look at the cream of that, probably that is a meta-analysis. Sometimes it is impossible to do a meta-analysis for a novel topic where the what is meta-analysis? Meta-analysis is actually a mathematical combination. So your results of several studies are combined mathematically and you get a summary estimate. So probably this is a quantitative evidence of systematic review, and that's probably, if you're going to look at the type alone, this is going to be the best available evidence on the topic. But sometimes, even if you start with a meta-analysis, you collect all study, then you realize you can't do a mathematical combination, because the population is so heterogeneous, the numbers are too inadequate to make any sense. So in such scenario, what are you going to do? You are going to form a particular type of guideline and then review them based on the guidelines. So these are your narrative reviews. So if you have a narrative review or a meta-analysis on a topic, probably that is the best form of evidence that you can look at. Having said that, before we go on to look at whether it is all that good in systematic reviews, I just mentioned, because this is again a large topic. So what is forest plot? All of you should know. Basically, forest plot is the graphical representation of your systematic review or meta-analysis, where the various studies are your population, and then the interventions are grouped, the control group is grouped, and the outcome is mathematically analyzed. So you can look at how to analyze the mathematical outcome. You can look at the relative risk, You can look at the odds ratio, you can look at the number needed to treat and various things. I'm not going to go into any of this because of lack of time. Probably we can discuss subsequently in the discussion or something. And once you have analyzed all that, then you graphically represent. So you have a line of no effect. That is your one. And then if in a forest plot, the intervention lies on one side, it favors on this side it favors the intervention, and on this side it favors the control. And of course, when you're talking about confidence interval, the precision is also important. If it is too broad, then you are not going to find accuracy there. And this is again represented by the breadth of the line, and this is your point estimate. So now once you have plotted your point estimates as squares, you combine it together and you get your diamond. And if you find the diamond is cutting the line 1, then that means it may not be statistically significant. Diamond has to lie on either sides, and the weight of this of each study is represented. You can see it in the forest plot. So weight of the, as per this, the maximum weight is for this study, study B. And accordingly, this is again, the figures are given here. Actually, the values are also given here. So this is the approximate way how you represent a meta-analysis. Now, having said that systematic review or meta-analysis is the best form of evidence you have, we also said that sometimes it's not available. And sometimes what you have is much lesser. For if there is no systematic review, then you need to go for lower. If at all somebody has done an RCT, you need to look at it. That is not there. You go look at the cohort study, the various studies, and finally nothing is there. You can look at the cases published in that regard, and nothing is there. Again, you go by off-the-shelf medications in the in such scenario of off-the-shelf management, especially when you talk about such rare management protocols. So having said all that, suppose you have a systematic review, it is not necessary that the one systematic review is the ultimate answer. It can still mislead you. You need to look at how good is the way that was done. A study, even if well done, and even if it is a meta-analysis, can mislead you. So there can be sources of error in your study, and these should be thoroughly evaluated. Until you evaluate this, you cannot really say that, okay, this is very relevant for me. And how do you assess the source of error? So source of error can be broadly, I just try to summarize the concept broadly and put them into 3 groups: the chance errors, the bias, and the confounding factors. So now one more word about each before we proceed. So chance errors are basically looking at the chance that your interpretation is falsely positive or falsely negative. So that it's a type 1 chance error when it is false positive, and type 2 chance error when it is false negative. The basic reason why some of the statistically done, methodological studies fail us is because there are a lot of bias. Conflicting interest should not be there. That is, of course, said and done. Suppose you are going to take financial help from a organization and then going to review their product. Well, there is a serious source of conflict. So in such scenarios, your study reliability comes down drastically. Now, even if you are intentionally not doing any haravari, still some errors can creep in. Some bias can creep in, not intentional, unintentional bias. This bias can be at the stage of selection of your population, or how you perform. So that is a selection bias. How you allocate into groups, all these will come there. So in order to minimize that, we say RCT. But again, RCT has to have various other qualities, like it has to be blinding, and then the making sure that the blinding takes place, and also selection bias is by itself a big problem for us. And the second part is when you perform the study, that is again the blinding will come here also. Performance bias can keep in, and then when you're going to draw data, the detection bias can occur again if you are not blinded. And there can be other bias like attrition bias, selective outcome reporting bias again. So you have to, when you read a paper, you need to really look at all these systematically. Any type 1 chance error, type 2 chance error, any selection bias, performance bias, detection bias, attrition bias, selective outcome reporting bias, etc. And of course, confounding factors, the topic by itself I'm not going to touch. So there are going to be various confounding factors that can actually corrupt a meta-analysis also. There is one way to go around this. Once you have decided that what type of study you are going to look at, there are some guidelines available for you already for critical appraisal. The common ones that are being used to critically appraise a topic would be, for a systematic review meta-analysis, you go by the PRISMA, preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis. This is what everybody uses. So it has given you checklist 1, 2, 3, 4. You check on all that and then see where all it is not following the standard norms. And if it is not following the standard norms, you try to look at further what is the cause and all that. Now, if you are going to just look at a randomized controlled trial, well, the accepted guidelines for that is the consort guidelines, consolidated standards of reporting trial. Well, again, these are separate topics by itself, but I'm sure that most of you have heard of all these, and then you can further go on to the net and then search or read upon this. Now, suppose you don't have an RCT, you have only observational studies. Then what is usually used is STROB guidelines, strengthening the reporting of observational studies in epidemiology statement. So STROB guidelines can be used for a prospective study as well as a retrospective observational study. Suppose you have bench studies and animal studies, the most acceptable guidelines to critically appraise that would be ARRIVE, the Animals in Research Reporting in Vitro Experiments guidelines. So there are various guidelines like this. So at least you should be familiar with these PRISMA, Consort, STROB and ARRIVE so that you can critically appraise any article that you read. And having read it, now you need to look at the evidence that is presented. So there are various ways of actually defining the evidence. One of the ways is, there are various ways. One of the ways is grade. That is the grades or recommendation, assessment, development and evaluation working group guidelines. These guidelines have been revised so many times. So probably the recent grade is what you can look at for critically appraising the evidence that is present in the paper. Now, what are you going to do in grade? You are going to actually look at whether the desirable effects of the recommendations outweigh the undesirable effects. Yesterday, during a beautiful talk, Professor Saurabh Gupta was talking about use of steroids in BPD. And he mentioned 60%. So you know that benefit when the benefit when you use suppose this is, we were talking about BPD yesterday. So like if you are going to use a BPD calculator and then you are going to find that the chance of baby developing BPD is more than 60%, then the benefit risk ratio for using steroids is more in favor of steroids. If it was less than 60, probably you would not use. This is just trying to explain how this will help you. The strength of evidence will help you to evaluate the paper that you have read. Now, evidence is usually strong when we can confidently assume that the desirable effects outweigh the undesirable effects, and weak when effects may still be there, but it may still outweigh the undesirable effect. But the author at least that paper is less confident of the same. So anyway, so there are various ways of assessing, but we should look at the quality of the paper that you're going to assess. And the last part you're going to look at is the study relevant for me? I know that therapeutic hypothermia is the standard of care in moderate asphyxia. Suppose I'm working in a primary level setup where transporting a baby takes 6-7 hours and baby is born in my scenario with birth asphyxia. I do not have facility even for a CPAP. Because I know that evidence-based medicine says that cooling is the way to go, I will not cool baby. So the relevance of the study in your setting has also to be looked at. So we said that to identify the appropriate study, we need to know what paper to look at. Is it relevant for me? Is this study design good? Is the quality good? And is it relevant to my setting? Now, having done all that, now you know now, but where am I going to look for? You need to search the papers. Do I Google and find out like most of us do? Probably the answer is a big no. Never Google. This is what some of the anxious parents do when they find the babies with some problems. So then what you are going to land up with a lot of confusing statements, and then you're finally going to lose the way. We have to be very, very specific. So where do we look for evidence in your practice? The list is too big. PubMed is what is most popular. Then you have Cochrane Library, you have AMED, Embase, Scopus, HMIC, Icon. There is a big list. I'm not going to read out all the list. So you need to know which is the source you are going to look at. PubMed is what we all use mostly, and the next session is exclusively devoted to PubMed. The legend in reading PubMed, Professor Mangala Bharati is going to tell us how to play with PubMed. So I will skip this. I'll just say that PubMed is a free engine accessing the primarily the Medline database. There are various databases, and then probably it is actually maintained by the US National Library of Medicine at the National Institute of Health. And but why we all use PubMed? Because its database of choice for the beginners and most searchers in health sciences is very up to date, and it is actually very, very less focused. Most of us are confused when we look for research papers, so PubMed is the right place to go. But the less focused we are, more confused your search is going to be. But anyway, much better than you Googling. And as I said, this is the most popular one, and the larger database. It has a more larger database than Cochrane, whereas Cochrane is a very refined search. Cochrane Collaboration, we all know, is an international non-profit organization that prepares, maintains, and disseminates systemic up-to-date reviews of healthcare interventions. The founder of the collaboration is Archie Cochrane. All of you know that. So now in Cochrane Library, you will find variety of sources, the systematic Cochrane systematic reviews, database of reviews of effects, Cochrane Central Register for Control Trials, and so on and so forth. So there are various sources you can get from the CochraneLibrary.com. Another source other than Medline is Embase. It's a significant health science database which indexes many journals which are not covered by PubMed also. And here the advantage is more European journals, more non-English journals, and many more drug therapy journals you may find in Embase. Actually, here the thing is, it is slightly more cumbersome, but then Embase is something that some of us search. Advantage of being able to find terms that are near or next to other terms with a variable number of words in between are all possible, where your mesh has to be proper when you do a PubMed, as we'll learn subsequently. And it links with the Scopus to find us citing articles. Scopus is a larger database, includes all citations in PubMed and Embase from 96 onwards. The problem it is not as up to date as PubMed. So Scopus alone is not good enough. It may not tell you the recent things which first gets noticed in the PubMed. And the engine is also not as thorough as PubMed or Medline Embase. We also have Google Scholar, where it is maybe more easy to search, and as you're going to learn the Boolean words in PubMed, we'll know that or, and, everything have different connotations when you search in PubMed, but there is no need for and in Google Scholar. And obviously it will start with the obvious key concept, and it will actually ignore the common words. And here you can use phrases like suicide prevention or something like that, and you can variations on the words also are searched separately. So Google Scholar is another one that you can use, and probably you need to know how to use Google Scholar, how to compartmentalize your search settings, etc., etc. There are various other sources like the Canadian, the UK, and various other things. I'm not going to deal with any of those. I think my time is up. So you have unpublished literature as well. This is because some of the trials, when you're looking at rare things, sometimes they are not available online. It is much less now. Maybe 10 years ago it was more the case, but still do not be very sure that everything in published is there in uh, your online. It sometimes you don't find certain things, and this 25% of all medical journals are on that is a old statement. Probably we can think of a larger figure now, and non-English language are underrepresented in Medline again. So the developing countries, there are some good articles in Iran, from Iran and all that. So like some of them do not get the due representation in the Medline, and usually there is a publication bias. Whenever, so suppose this is the problem actually, when you're going to look at the studies, suppose you have done 10 studies, 10 people have done study, 3 people have found that it is a positive result, 7 people have found that it's a negative result. When you publish, when you present it for publication, the positive results get preference. So this is a publication bias, which we are less in a more acclaimed journal, but it is still there. And this is from the side of the publisher or from the author. And so the strength and direction of results should not be the criteria to look at the evidence. But unfortunately, we live in an unperfect world, and that is what is happening. Sometimes you need to hand search key journals, and probably this is what I said. So probably it's a good idea to make friendship with your librarian, and you should not neglect local data. Certain data, the problem is we don't interpret our data well, and then it is not published. So, but the data has some meaning. So it is very important that you look at the local evidence, which is probably not as systematically organized as well. I'll stop here. Probably we can take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful talk and simplifying beautifully for the basics of research methodology, differentiating between the meta-analysis and systematic review, and types of selection bias and all such things. Dr. Manoj sir is the current president of NNF Kerala State and HOD at the Jubilee Mission Hospital, Thrissur, and a great teacher as we just experienced. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Are we taking questions at the end?
At the end, sir.
Okay.
We will move to the next talk. That is Dr. Mangala Bharti, sir. Sir is current professor and head of neonatology at Madras Medical College. Sir is head of Care of Excellence for Newborn, Institute of Obstetric and Gynecology, IGMOR, Chennai, and head of academics and consultant neonatologist at Department of Neonatology, Mehta Hospital, Chennai. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Again, good evening, everyone. Is my screen visible, and am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, good. So we just heard from Dr. Manoj an excellent lecture about the various resources that we may need to tap when we want to search literature, especially if you want to be comprehensive when you're doing a detailed search. I think it was emphasized well that PubMed is not the only solution. PubMed also has its own limitations. So there are n number of resources available right now. But no doubt PubMed is the biggest one which has got a very large collection, and the one which is freely available and simple also. I think even though this topic has been put as a part of research related research methodology workshop, I just want to reassure in the beginning itself. See, this topic has nothing to do with the usual kind of research methods what we discuss. So this is a simple and straightforward topic. We are just going to learn. There's nothing like somebody has got what to say, lot of expertise on using PubMed. This is just like learning your new smartphone that what you had purchased recently. All that you need to do is that I think you will need to spend some time to understand the features, what are there available in the new version. Especially just say you just installed a new version of Android or updated a version of Android or iOS, whatever it is. So this is today what we're going to do is that simply we are just looking into the features of a simple software program. And this software program is a very simple interface, and there's a lot of self-learning available within the web. So you don't need to even rely on somebody to tell you that what are the features available in PubMed. If you have the intention and time, so you can self-learn. So more than what I'm just going to discuss today about PubMed. So what I plan to do now is that actually for the first 15 or 20 minutes, we'll discuss something about so what is PubMed, and most importantly, I will show you some slides for especially for those who are new to PubMed or don't know much about PubMed to understand. The crucial link to me is that in trying to understand how this database works, because that gives us that idea. If you understand how things are being organized in PubMed by people running PubMed, so it will be very useful to us to plan a search so that we do a precise and comprehensive, whatever is your area of interest, we can do that. So PubMed is sorry, yeah, this is maintained by this gives access. Sitting at your home, you get access to one of the largest libraries, medical libraries in the world, the National Library of Medicine, maintained by the National Institutes of Health. But the PubMed database doesn't give you access to all the journals or articles which are subscribed by National Library of Medicine. It just gives access to all the journals up to the level of an abstract. But beyond that, so you may all articles are not free. Earlier, actually, the web address was different. Now it is very simple. So you just all that you need to know is a pubmed.gov. That is the address for PubMed. So these are some features or what to say terminologies that we need to understand well. I think if you are familiar with these terminologies, I think that's it. There's nothing more in PubMed beyond these terminologies. So we are just going to focus a lot about what do we mean by this terminology, mesh, MESH. And so what is the difference between a basic search and advanced search? And a little bit about how to make use of filters. What do you mean by an my NCBI, and how to make use of PubMed for creating email alerts in future whenever an update happens, and a little bit about using PubMed for can I use it as my bibliography source for writing my references. And this is very crucial, the various search tags that we are going to use when we are doing an advanced search. We are just going to deal all these things quickly one by one. So what is Medline? So what are the difference between PubMed and Medline? So see, this is an example of just a glimpse, one section maybe of the National Library of Medicine. So going by the volume of literature available, we have, I think, there are more than 30 million articles at the moment sitting in the National Library of Medicine. So how do we organize all these journals? So this is not even medical sciences, even it's beyond medical, paramedical, dental, other even basic sciences. Lots and lots of articles are coming up and getting published every day. So just remember how this is just an index that we find in our textbooks, right? At the end of all our textbooks will have an indexing. So where you just see for one single terminology, let's say, for example, I'll take air expansion or transport physiology. It is not found only in one page. There will be some multiple pages cited for the same. So for example, say animal derived surfactants is in 372, 378 to 379. So even for one single textbook, say a particular keyword finds a mention at multiple places. So when you're talking about journals, so that article, every article is going to have multiple important keywords. And that keywords may be there in multiple other articles as well, irrespective of the specialty. So for example, if you're talking about a terminology called placenta, you can find placenta in neonate literature, in animal literature, in obstetric literature. So many, that's a very common terms. So that's where this is just, I think, I also have not gone or for some time I didn't know actually how librarians do that. So what do we do whenever we need help to search articles related to one particular keyword? You get you ask help from librarians. So how are they doing it manually before everything was computerized and software started helping people? So they were doing this manually. So they were writing it in multiple small cards. So whenever a new article comes away, so in a journal may have some 10 or 15 articles. For each and every article, they will just identify the keywords. They will write down the keywords for that article. Some keywords would have been provided by the author themselves. But okay, the librarian is free to choose or write his or her own keywords. So once they write down the keywords, say the keywords can be somewhere between 10 to 15 keywords, and then he has to find out a card for that particular keyword. So in all those 10 or 15 places where this keyword is there, he's going to make an entry of that article. Quite what to say, not an easy task. So just look here. I was just showing one small section of the card. Even for one library, for the articles present in a small library, the index alone, there is no journal here. All these boxes are containing various cards, but the librarian knows where to search for various keywords, and that will tell you that okay, what are the journal articles where this keyword is present. So that has been okay. So this classification of these various keywords alone, then people thought, okay, this itself is very haphazard, right? Can we just organize this just like organizing a library? Organizing only the keywords. Just remember, we are talking now about organizing the keywords alone. So this is a book only. Index Medicus is that we are talking about how do we organize the keywords in a structured way. Only the keywords under the various subject headings. That is what we mean by an Index Medicus. So in the Index Medicus, as subjects keep increasing, branches of medicine keep increasing, new and new headings keep coming in. So see, that's what is happening. The Index Medicus has got various series, starting 1, 2, 3, 4. So almost every year, they will have new series of Index Medicus. So all these things are now made simple. So we just understood what do we mean by an Index Medicus. Just like an index of a textbook, this is an index of a various keywords arranged in a tree-like hierarchical fashion, so that it is uniform. So that we form uniform keywords for the various journals that a library is subscribed to. Index Medicus is the index of the various keywords arranged in a structured way of all the articles which we found in National Library of Medicine. So the software version of the same is called as Medline. Medline is nothing that Index Medicus is it's a book in print. You have to go through various books which are arranged, which is difficult. So now they just converted into an online version to so easily access this Index Medicus. That is what we call as a Medline. So PubMed is the interface through which we are accessing this Medline. So various keywords are available. The moment you get a keyword, that it will take you to the journals where that keyword appears. So all learned what is Medline. And okay, so what do we mean by this term? We'll spend little time about MESH. MESH stands for medical subject headings. So medical subject headings are nothing but how. I'll just at least we'll just skip to the browser just for you to try to see. This is the PubMed interface. I'm online now. So you just see there is only one search bar, simple search bar. There are various options here. Here is a learn option. So for beginners, you just start with here about PubMed, FAQs, user guide, how to find a full text. All self-help is available here. And this is about searches. And when you want to use the download options, you have the options here. And when you want to explore the mesh database and journal, so let me just click and see what this is, mesh database. Okay, So this database, we can see this is again there is you see a search bar here, but remember what is mesh? Mesh is the medical subject heading. It's a NL National Library of Medicine controlled. It's a vocabulary thesaurus used for indexing articles for PubMed. This will not yield any journal articles. Mesh this search is about searching the keywords, whatever are the keywords of your interest. So for example, we are just discussing about placenta. Let's just try to find out. I'm just trying to find, is there a keyword called placenta? See, there are the auto suggestions. Just see, there are numerous auto suggestions coming up related to placenta. Let me just search just only placenta.
Mangala, sorry to interrupt. We
Yes,
are
sir.
seeing your screen, Mangala.
You're not seeing the screen, sir?
It is not good from that heading slide. Mesh heading slide is only seen.
I'm sorry. Just a second, sir. Okay, so the way it works when you open multiple windows is that you're sharing only one window. I have to share screen again. Is it visible now, sir?
Perfectly.
Yeah, I think we will lose some time because when I have to switch back, I will lose a minute. It's okay. So here, see, this is a mesh medical subject heading. I just clicked a link. I'll show you again as you are not showing. This is I will go back to PubMed. It's okay. This is the interface. Whenever you type pubmed.gov, you are just going to enter this page. This is the home page of PubMed. So here you just see there is the link for mesh database. So I'm just clicking the link for mesh database and it opens up this search bar. And this search is only a search of the various keywords. So I may think that is a keyword, but do I really have a keyword by that name? And what are the various synonyms for that keyword that the indexers use? And what is the hierarchy? Where is it arranged? What are the terms that are above that in hierarchy? What are the terms that are below in hierarchy? That's why I just want to give an example. Let's try to type placenta and see where it is. Okay, so there are many terms. Let's go with the first one, placenta here. So a short description is also given. Okay, so let's just go down. That shows the hierarchy. Okay, so it comes under what to say in all categories. It is anatomical category. There are embryonic structures, and then there comes the placenta. This is all about anatomy. If my area of interest is something about related to placental circulation, it is giving me auto suggestions. Let me search for placental circulation, where it is placed. Again, so you just see that. So what are these entry terms? This is fantastic. Just see, even though there is a single term called placental circulation, whatever the author has used, whether it is placental blood flow, flow of the placental blood, uterine circulation, uterine blood flow, uterine blood flows, uteroplacental blood flow, fetoplacental, so it's okay. Different people would have used different terminologies, right? So all these terminologies, whenever somebody is going to find any of these terminologies, this is all going to get coded with a single term called placental circulation, and this is what is called as a mesh heading. So the medical subject heading. So that this is a standard term. We can't even just say so assume or search for all these terminologies, right? You just simply go for placental circulation, and this hierarchy is very, very important. I'll just show you something for surfactant. Let's see how a common things works. Okay, there are various surfactants. Let us go for a pulmonary surfactant, which will be of interest to us. Okay, so now you just see. So these are the entry terms because it's pretty straightforward. There is no other word for a pulmonary surfactant. So there are some previous other terminologies also, like surface active agents up to 1970, but nobody is using this term surface active agents right now. So where is it placed in hierarchy? It comes under pharmacological actions, therapeutic use, and in the drugs category, it comes under pulmonary surfactant. Okay, so I'll come back to mesh again. So just trying to tell you where the mesh database is that and how do we search for the keywords. Sorry, I'll just go to the presentation quickly, finish, and then come back. Okay, so this is a very, very important thing. I think you have some idea about what is a mesh medical subject heading. Let's go through the PubMed. This interface is there only from the last year. I think many of you would have realized This is an upgraded interface which was launched in somewhere like November 2019, and in Vogue now it has become a standard. So it's much simpler than the interface what was there earlier. And so I'll just tell you the advantages of this new interface over the previous one. First and foremost, so earlier there were different versions for the web and mobile in PubMed. So now these sorry, just a moment. Now it has all been made simple. Whatever be the device, whether you are logging in through your mobile or you are using something like your iPad or a tablet, or you are logging in properly through a system, you are just accessing the same website. It is not a toned down or watered down website. So all the features will be available. Even if I'm accessing pubmed.gov through my mobile, all the options that are available when I'm accessing through the computer are available on mobile. So as it's running in cloud, that's one thing that is available only for the last 1 year. Earlier it was not there. The mobile version was a different version. It had only limited options earlier. And just an example is shown here. Forget about it. Then let's move ahead. I said all these things we have already discussed. This is again interesting. Just in the home page alone, you just see this is the home page, a snapshot of the home page. You have something called trending articles and latest literature. You don't need to type anything. Just like social medias and platforms where we do get news every day. If you're just interested in just seeing that, okay, so what are the papers that are being discussed at the world level? What are the trending articles right now? This is just based upon, this has got nothing to do with the year of publication. Some will be a recent article, some will be very old articles. But these are the articles which are being looked at by a large number of people at the moment across the world. So just see what are the trending articles. If there's a link there, if you click, it will take you to the 1,000 recent trending articles you can look into. And the latest literature also, so some of the common journals, the major journals, if you have a latest literature available, there is a direct link from here. This is for the casual browser who wants to know what is happening around me. It is not related to any particular, we can't customize these things. These are not related to any particular specialty. This is about the whole, for all subjects, what is trending across the globe. Okay. The sidebar menu has been made very simple. So whenever you just click open the article, now you can just see the various things available on the right side of the type bar, the abstract, figures, the various references, publication type, the mesh terms. Again, we'll come to mesh terms here. It's very, very simple now. This option has been brought forward straight up front for any article. You can straight away create, the moment you click this site, it is going to create a text box where in a particular format, which is an NLM format, which is something like a Vancouver only. NLM is akin to Vancouver now. You can easily copy and paste. For that one particular article, if you're interested in citing that article somewhere, just click cite. I'll show that again when we will be doing that workout. Okay, we'll move ahead. And this page navigation is a fantastic feature. Right now, even earlier there was a time where you have to just click open each and every journal, see the abstract, come back again to the previous page. Now you can just keep on moving. You've been provided a page navigation option where you can keep reading all the abstracts one by one without moving to the previous page. Again, I'll show that option to you. Okay, and as I said, if you click this site, you will get the citation text, which you can easily copy paste, or if you want to download, you can download for an individual paper. This bar was not there earlier. Earlier, you had to just use a separate, search filter, where you want to just see the articles by a particular period. So this search bar is wonderful. It shows whenever you are searching for a particular item, it shows the years and the number of publications per year. You can easily just scroll this bar to limit it to one particular period, only 2020 to 19, 18, whatever it is. Just drag this button. You can just get the articles in a particular published in a particular period. That's wonderful. Okay. Okay. And earlier the arrangement, the sorting out was different. Now the sorting out is something called as a best match, which is based on artificial intelligence. PubMed tries to give you the best match to the words that you have typed in the search bar. That it's very, very helpful. If you want to just resort it by a publication date or the most recent articles appearing on the top, you can do that. But by default, it is what is called as a best match. Okay, I said this to hover around, you have something to click Just in any page with abstracts, you can keep on moving left and right from the previous article, the next article that is available. And of course, the filters are there in the left. You know about the filters. The filters are the commonly simple whenever you want to arrange it by name, by age of the patient, the type of the trial, whether you are interested in RCTs, observational day trials, meta-analysis, systematic reviews, or you are interested in articles only which have full text, interacted, all of these things, subject, journal, sex, species. So you can just filter the results, all the results. Okay. Alerts will come back. I'll show advanced search when we are doing it. Okay. The retrieval features have been improved. And so it now automatically looks for singulars and plurals. If you're typing British, American spelling is different. PubMed knows that it searches for both British and American version of those. And there is an unlimited truncation. I'll show you what is truncation. So PubMed is smart. So most of the time, even if you simply type in the PubMed some particular terminology, it's going to give you the best results. It uses a algorithm called automatic term mapping, where it tries to match to the mesh terms automatically, even without using an advanced search. Okay, I think time for us to move to this. This is very, very important. There are some search tags which you attach to any particular, whenever you want to type a word, a keyword, you can just add these, tags in brackets, so that you tell PubMed what you are interested in. Do you want to search all fields? You want to search only a title? You want to search some text words? This is just like in any other software. Please don't worry. You don't need to memorize, or this will just only help you. It's something like a keyword. Say you have a lot of keypad shortcuts, right? If for copy paste, you can use Control C and Control V. It doesn't matter if you don't know Control C and Control V. There is always you use a mouse, use the right click, there will be an option for copy and paste. The same way, the search bar has got all options, the advanced search bar. So for those who are more comfortable in typing, you need to go for the tags. Otherwise, you simply use the search bar. It has all the option embedded. You don't need to remember any of this, but it'll help you. If you're good at typing, it will help you. Okay. So we'll just again move ahead quickly to I'll show you at least one example. I'll just show you. So can I take just 5 minutes to show an example? Thank you. I'm crossing my time.
Mangla, please do show the filters. Many pages don't effectively use filters.
Okay.
Can you please show them use of filters?
Yes, sir. Please do.
Okay, so we are in the home page. So what I'll try to do quickly is that I'll just try to see. So we published a recent article related to resuscitation in intact placental circulation. I'll just take that example quickly. So let's say you are interested in looking for articles where a baby is being resuscitated in the delivery room with an intact placental cord. You just want to know what are the material available in literature on that. What you can simply do, you can just type the same. So resuscitation with intact placental circulation. And then just simply click search and just see what the PubMed does. So how many articles has it found? It is just finding you 5 articles by citation matching. So the articles are very much relevant. Changes in placental circulation in animal, how to provide mother side resuscitation. Good to see our paper also, delivery room carinatal resuscitation. And 2 or 3 more. Sorry, how many papers here? In total 14 results. 5 articles for citation matching. I do get 14 results. So this is what PubMed has done. But do you think there will be only some 14 results? These are all very relevant articles. For the beginner who wants to read something about this topic, I'll say this is more than enough. You will get all the major articles, most of the articles which are related to this. But what is the problem there? So when you want to do a comprehensive research, or if a student you are interested, you're searching something for your thesis, if you want to make sure you don't want to miss most of the articles, that is where you have to go for an advanced search. See, this is there in my history. First, let us just see what the PubMed does, what it has done. It will be there in always in your history bar. So this is my last search. I have used these terms and it has yielded me 14. Just click these details. So let me just click these details And this is what PubMed has done. See, I have just typed only these terms, various terms, resuscitation with intact placental circulation. So what PubMed has searched for, it has searched for these various terms, resuscitability, resuscitate, resuscitating, various combinations, both in mesh terms and as well as in all fields. It has searched for this. Just like it, for every word, it has searched both in mesh terms, whether that word is present in mesh and whether the term is present in any of the other fields as well. And it had tried to combine it. See, this much amount of artificial intelligence is already happening in PubMed. Okay, what is the only problem? See, the problem is that PubMed it cannot realize that, okay, somebody would have used a term intact placental circulation. Other people would have used an umbilical cord. It may be an intact cord. You don't find the word umbilical cord here anywhere, right? Umbilical cord, umbilical milking. So delayed cord clamping. Somebody might have used it resuscitation with the delayed cord clamping. That is the problem. That's where we need to use an advanced search. So in any search, the first step is that you need to please write down the keywords that you are interested in, where it would have been depicted. You can just open an article and try to find out what are the likely keywords. For example, let me just open up this cord trial, resuscitation with intact placental circulation. So how is, just go down on the right side, you just click the mesh terms. Okay, that is where fantastic. This is I'm just exactly what I wanted to point out. This article has shown. So you don't find the mesh terminology here, even though this article is published in 2018. It is yet to be indexed. Maybe it's because of COVID. I don't know. That is, so you have to be careful. Let's say even our article, it would not have been indexed so far. I'll just show you. Okay, this is the article, our article. So you don't see anything called mesh terms here. What does it mean? This article has been published online, but the indexing part is yet to happen. So when you are searching only by mesh, it is a very structured way of searching the database, but you will miss the recent articles where there may be a time gap of sometimes even up to a year or 2 years. We do see even 2018 articles are not indexed yet. So that is always there. That's why we always have to combine a mesh search with a search with a simple text also. Let's go down, take an article which is a little bit older also. Resuscitate with intact placental circulation, very 2008. Okay. So this is an index article. Whenever it has been indexed already, you will see something called as a mesh terms. Let's see what are the terms that have been used for this article. See, these are the ones, you just take one article and just see what are the words that are commonly being used. So apart from human, infant, newborn, placental circulation is a word that is being used. Resuscitation is we know that, okay, umbilical cord, just we guessed it right. So umbilical cord seems to be a very, very important word, because that tagging was not done in maybe in many articles. That's why we are not able to retrieve many articles. We got only 14 or 15 articles. Let's go back to advanced search. I will just show you. I have done the search for want of time already, just to show you. I'll just show the various searches what I have done, and then just try to, what are my sorry, sir? Hello?
No, sir, you can continue, sir.
Sorry, just 2 or 3 more minutes. I think I'll try to close. See, I have just written down the keywords which are related to this search. So what is it? My important keywords are, as I said, umbilical cord, placental circulation, resuscitation. And I thought maybe a delivery room. Sometimes some article maybe said this is a delivery room care. They might have used that word, delivery room. I have just chose only 4 keywords, right? Umbilical cord, placental circulation, resuscitation, and delivery room. So this is the first search which I started with. What is it? I have just asked PubMed to search umbilical cord for mesh. MH stands for mesh heading. It's a mesh term. But I'm not sure that whether still there may be article where it might get missed, especially recent or articles which are not indexed. It won't come in my search retrieval. So I'm just using this TI and AB stands for title or abstract. So if this any article which has got, this is what we mean by truncation. You just please use a star rather than writing umbilical. So if you use UMBIL and a star, this will search for anything like umbilicus, umbilical, umbilicated, whatever it is. Whatever that various different terminologies are using these 5 alphabets to start with, it is going to search for all those terms. So it's always good to use that truncation. So or a card. Some people might have simply mentioned as card. So the first search, any article which has got a subject heading of an umbilical cord, or the title or abstract has something truncated umbil, anything followed by that, or a card, If I do that search, it yields me 2,74,290 articles, right? Fine. It's simple. Just start in small steps. Good. What was my second search? I did the same for the other keyword. I did for placental circulation, both for the mesh heading as well as for the, in something like somebody would have mentioned it in a title or abstract. Okay. That yielded me 2,284 articles. Did the same for resuscitation, either as a mesh heading or resuscitation in the title or abstract. That is 1,33,273 articles. And for delivery room, the same strategy. So just taking one keyword at a time. And for that keyword, I'm searching both the mesh, and I'm just not searching all fields because that is unnecessary. You hope that will be there somewhere in title, at least in the abstract. So if you are saying all fields, even if it is there in text somewhere in discussions, that will come up. That number will go up greatly. That is required only for somebody who's doing a Cochrane review or doing extensive literature search, not for us. So I find the title and abstract to be more useful. I have just searched separately for these keywords. And now what I have started doing it, I have started combining these. Ultimately, I reached a stage where I just wanted to have all these umbilical cord or placental circulation or resuscitation or something related to the delivery room. So I am using that one, and I added one more tag just now. This is the last keyword. I just want to search only for newborns. I use newborn is a mesh heading, or it could be something neonate, or whatever it is. So when combining these two, I'm getting only 948 articles. Fantastic, right? So still I felt that 948 articles are quite huge for me to go through. What did I do next? I just cut down the abstract part. I thought that, okay, even though there are 948 articles, if somebody had used any of these terminologies, if it is an important article, they would have mentioned it at least in title. They would have used the words, no, either one of these. It need not be all this, umbilical, cord, or resuscitation, or placenta, something. If this word is there in the title of the article, then I am interested. So I narrowed it down to, I cut down the abstract part and used it only to the title. It's yielding me 183 articles. Let me just click that 183 and now just see what you say? Almost. See now it is BC beautifully from 1954 articles. It's quite interesting. Up to 2000. You know that most of the articles are just located in this period beyond 2000. As this concept is there only from here. Maybe these are animal studies, or it could have been different kind. If you're interested, we can just go through that. If you just go through all these trials, most of the data is very much related to your area of interest. They're using various words. See, there is no word about resuscitation here. This is about cord clamping here. Somebody is using the term placenta, placental circulation. All this will be covered. We have used an extensive search. So all these terminologies are getting captured. I am just getting only simple 183 results. I can still narrow down. This is what we mean by filters. I can filter them. Let's say if you click a filter, which is articles published only in the last 10 years, okay, then it comes to only 77 results. If I'm interested only in articles which are randomized control trials, let me use this filter. So I'm just getting only 8 results. Only 8 RCTs published in the last 10 years on this topic. Okay, if I may, leave the period year, I'm interested only in RCTs. How many RCTs are there? Okay, I do get still 8. It looks like all the 8 RCTs are done in the last, this is not cleared yet. You can, here you can clear all, it will go away. Then you just click only the RCTs. Okay, so you have 14 RCTs on this topic. Okay, milking, it is a various kind of clamping, delayed cord clamping. As I said already, people have used various terminologies, but still this is a comprehensive search which yields all of this. Very sorry that I have stepped on my time. I'll stop here. And maybe once Naveen sir finishes, if there are some questions, I'll take up. Thank you for the patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking us through PubMed into such a detail. And the live demonstration was wonderful, sir, and much needed for beginners like us. And it is really useful for day-to-day practice or finding references. Maybe it is thesis writing or paper writing or just finding a disease condition like this. So thank you, sir. Next, we'll be having Dr. Naveen Jain, sir. Sir is not only a famous doctor or a great clinician, but sir is a wonderful teacher as well that we'll experience in the coming time. Sir is head of a department of neonatology in the KIMS Health Trivandrum. Sir is also editor of Cloherty and Stark's Manual of Neonatal Care, and Sir is editor of Eileen Words, The Development of Infant and the Young Child. So we welcome you, sir, and over to you.
Good evening to all my friends and teachers, to all those students who find research a subject best avoided. In this journal article, reading exercise, we will try to learn a few basics of how to critique a journal that is published, to find out whether this journal, this science is useful to me or not. There will be only two key words we will be learning throughout the presentation. What is the outcome, the result, the answer that this study found, and what is the population they studied? In what context is this study going to be useful? We have all enjoyed hearing stories from the grandma, listening to a movie, reading a book, and at the beginning, throughout the story, we have only wondered one thing. What will happen at the end? If grandma finished the story halfway through, we would tell me, Grandma, please tell me, how did the story end? We all are in a habit of going back to the last page of a book to try and quickly read it and understand what is going to happen. One of the favorite lines of a book are, "So I know she forgives me, just as I forgive her." Thomas Edison's last words were, "It's very beautiful over there. I don't know where there is, but I believe it is somewhere, and I really hope it is beautiful." So, nothing wrong if you have been trying to read only the conclusion of an article. At the end of the day, that's what matters. It is the most important part of the research to find out what they concluded. So let us learn how to check the conclusion first as soon as you start reading the article. The answer printed as conclusion should be limited only to the question that was posted at the start of the study. It should be also proven by the study and not extrapolated, not imagined that since we found this, possibly this is also good. We will learn through examples in the next 20 minutes. Let's start with the contemporary question. Is there an association between CT chest findings and clinical severity of COVID pneumonia measured as oxygen saturation index? There may be three possible conclusions. CT chest can guide need for higher medications like remdesivir. CT chest is an easy to use modality to triage COVID patients. CT chest score has moderate to high association with oxygen saturation index. There is only one conclusion possible from this study, that the CT chest score has moderate to high association with oxygen saturation index. The other two, that it can guide remdesivir therapy or triage COVID patients, was not studied and therefore cannot be concluded in this design. The current study design was all suspect COVID patients underwent CT. Some had a high score, some had a low score. Among them, we tried to find out, did most patients with a high score have a bad oxygen saturation index? And those with a low score, did they have a good outcome? So what we would write at the end of the day in all journals is what was not known before the study. Why was it done? The strength of association between the CT score and clinical severity has not been scientifically evaluated in COVID pneumonia. What has the study added? There is modest significant association noted between CT score and OSI. What if I wanted the conclusion to be that CT chest can guide need for higher medication like remdesivir? Then the study question would have to be different. Is there an association between CT chest score and response to remdesivir therapy in COVID? And the design would change. Clinically non-sick, because in all sick patients, you're justified in using a higher medication. You don't need a CT, possibly. But if you are looking at non-sick people, and then you do a CT and find a high score, you may give them either remdesivir or no remdesivir because they're not clinically sick just now, and find out their outcomes in terms of survival or getting intubated whatsoever. And the same thing with CT low score, and then compare these two. So this should have been the study design if I wish to conclude that CT can guide remdesivir therapy. So the first point we are going to learn and use when we read a journal, not necessarily for a journal club for PGs, even for faculty, consultant, practicing doctors who want to find how the new science applies to them, is to ask, did they answer the question they posted? So first you have to know what was the study question. Was it clearly spelled out? A bad study question can be role of CT in COVID pneumonia. Now this is very, very vague. This is almost like writing an essay on the cow. You could talk about the tree also. You need to spell out what is the role you want CT to do and what is the finding in COVID pneumonia that you want to find. So how do we find out if the authors spelled out the study question clearly? And there is a mnemonic called PICO. P stands for population, patient, who you're studying. I is for what they did. And C is controls, if there are. And comparators. Without comparators, the strength of any research becomes weak and whether outcomes were clearly spelled out. So the first question that you have to go on to ask, is the outcome relevant to you, basically to the patient? In preterm babies, some of them may have bronchopulmonary dysplasia. Extreme preterm babies may be on ventilator or oxygen for as long as say 100 days. We have always wondered whether use of steroids may be helpful in these patients. So one study shows clearly that use of steroids reduces days on ventilator by 2 days. And clearly p-value is some p.005. But they also did not spell it clearly, is that there was no change in survival at the end of the day between the steroid treated and non-treated group. Total days of oxygen did not change even though days on ventilator reduced, and the hospital stay remained the same. So this is the outcome what is relevant to the patient and should be to me. Did they go home early? Did they eventually require less oxygen, or did they survive more often? An outcome as lesser days on ventilator, although useful, is not the most relevant outcome of the study. If you were to take in an adult context, let us say use of remdesivir, treated patients have their IL-6 falling faster to a lower level. But again, if there is no decrease in need to ventilate and no decrease in mortality, then the study outcome is not useful to me or to my patient. The second point we want to push today is to understand if the population is addressing your problem. Is it the same kind of patients I treat? Suppose a published paper comes in the Lancet saying that plasma therapy decreases mortality in category C2 COVID patients. That's the most severe COVID patients who are on oxygen, intubated, and having multiple organ dysfunction. But if you are managing mostly category A patients in a clinic, then this paper is not for you. Just leave it. Don't waste your energy and time and don't flog your mind. So the second point we want to check in the journal is the outcome and population relevant to me. This is where we started. Finally, did the research paper give me an outcome which I was looking for, and is it in the same kind of patients that I treat or I'm interested in? Errors in writing the question, that is not spelling out the population and outcome clearly, will obviously result in wrong answer. A wrong question only get a wrong answer. There was a study planned like this in our department of cardiology by a young postgraduate, and he found that carotid artery stenosis was the commonest cause of disease pathology in young patients less than 40 who got stroke. And so he concluded, which obviously is not correct, is that all 40-year-old must be screened for carotid artery stenosis. Now, what is the problem? Here, the patients who were studied were young strokes. They had a Doppler, and then they found how many had carotid artery stenosis. So you can only answer that how common is carotid artery stenosis among stroke patients. So the conclusion should have been, do carotid artery Doppler in all young stroke patients and not do Doppler in all 40-year-old young people. If he really wanted to state the same thing, what he should have done, the study question should have been, if Doppler is done in all 40-year-olds, how frequent is carotid artery stenosis? And among these who have carotid artery stenosis, how many will get stroke within 1 year? So this should have been the picture. All 40-year-old screened with Doppler. If there is CAS positive, then how many will develop stroke? Not how many. So the population here in the design that was already done was young stroke patients. It should have been replaced by all 40-year-olds. And the outcome should have been not stenosis, or should have been stroke. Then only you can make a statement like all 40-year-olds must be screened to prevent stroke. Should all 40-year-old be checked for CAS by Doppler? And if they do get a positive finding, will they have stroke? Another example of errors in writing the study question, that is the population and outcome, can result in wrong answers. A study was published maybe 15 years back trying to push rota vaccination into national immunization schedule. They showed that rota vaccination decreases severity of diarrhea and stool output decreases. They borrowed a reference from WHO which said diarrhea accounts for infant mortality, and therefore if rotavirus reduces diarrhea, that is stool output, then it should be included in routine so that mortality will be less. But by saying decrease of severity stool output does not mean the same as reduced mortality. They are two different outcomes. So saying that if I measure the outcome in the study as stool output and concluding that mortality will decrease is a wrong study design. Also, the population is wrong in this study. This is not similar to my population. I wondered as a young consultant that we don't see diarrheal deaths in Kerala. Possibly because hygiene is high, early health seeking is there. They run to the hospital as soon as they find diarrhea. They use ORS from home itself. And we don't see diarrheal deaths. So giving rotavirus vaccine will not change this. Diarrheal deaths were very common in tribals of Africa. And therefore, the study should have targeted that population. And they should have said rota vaccine must be included as a routine. In tribals of Africa, Kerala population may not be the right population to address this study. Some more examples of how not defining the population and outcome or having a wrong study question will result in wrong answers. Will COVID vaccine produce immune responses, that is an IgG, in 70% of vaccinated people? So your conclusion should be limited to yes or no, it produces IgG response. It is not a clinical efficacy study. The study question was not protection against disease, study question was IgG response, and answer should be limited to IgG response only. Also, you should be very clear that what were the levels of IgG that was taken as sufficient response, and is there a basis for this level that you are defined? Another major error in this study is the study was tested on healthy young adult volunteers to find out immune response. And the vaccine is first rolled out for elderly people with comorbid. My God. It was never tested in this population. And we can think by common sense that the immune response, IgG response, may not be the same, leave alone safety, in elderly with comorbidity, and therefore extrapolating findings on a wrong population and an outcome of a clinical efficacy are both wrong in this question, and therefore such a judgment cannot be made. I'm going to push the same two words throughout these 20 minutes. When you read a journal article, ask whether this is an article for my kind of patient, and is this outcome what I want to see changing in my patient. So when I read an article from here on, first question I ask, who is being addressed? Are they studying the same kind of patients that I'm going to treat? What is the problem being addressed? What is the study question answering finally? And is this outcome relevant to my patient? I score the study by finding out, did the authors frame the question clearly, P and O? Did they limit their answer to the question? They do not extrapolate mortality from IgG. The next step, we learned two more words, a little quicker. That is the I and C, the intervention and control. That is, the details are in the devil, as they say, in the methods of the study. Using wrong tools, however hard you try, will only result in wrong answers. If you want the right results, you have to use the right tools. So, first question, you have to read the methods clearly, what was done, and understand whether you are clear on what they studied or what they have stated as their study method. A clear study question may be like this. Pregnancy affected by gestational diabetes, you want to tell how often do they land up getting a vaginal delivery, how often they get by cesarean, and how often instrumental. This is a very clear study question. A poorly written methods can be like this. We will include all GDM mothers who are having high blood sugar of this much, but exclude those who are diabetes before pregnancy, as well as those before 20 weeks. Also, details of socioeconomic details, Kuppu-Swamy score, and family history will be taken. We will study the multiple effects on mode of delivery and effects on pregnancy. My God. This Kuppu-Swamy fellow, poor guy, is dragged into every study without understanding what he wanted to say. If the study methods that are written in the study journal are not clear, what they did, then it is not that you are less intelligent, it is the authors who didn't write it well. Don't be the stupid emperor who was told that those who can't see his clothes are dumb. There are no clothes actually. So if you can't understand what was written, then the problem is in the person who wrote the paper and not that you are dumb. It's meant for you, you should be able to understand it. Same example back again, a clear study question should be, we included pregnant women affected by gestational diabetes, and we tried to find out how many were born by vaginal delivery, CS, and instrumental delivery. Study question should be clear and defined well. I'm helping one of my residents just now with writing her thesis paper on causative factors that result in community-acquired pneumonia in children. So when we started writing up the project, we realized that the definition of community-acquired pneumonia itself was not clearly spelled out. If that is not there, then what are we studying? And also, how was the cause defined? Would they do blood culture, film array of tracheal secretions, or urine antigen tests in all patients, serology in all patients, or they did in some patients? If this is not defined, then how would you know that causative factors would be which one? The last and the quick one is to understand the role of a comparator in producing good results in the study. During our DM training, we were trying to read a paper on outcome of extremely low birth weight babies, those babies born below 1000 grams of birth weight. 80% of these at the age of 18 years were reported to be drug addicts, smokers, or pregnant before marriage. Young pregnant women. We were shocked. We were wondering whether it's worth saving these babies if 80% of them are going to be delinquent. But then we look at, in the same study, term babies were also studied at 18 years and 79% in the same population in a black population from poor socioeconomic area of US or Bronx, where it was not ELBW that was causing all this problem. It was being born up in that area, and you would have blamed arm. So while we conclude today's session, the tips on reading journals are: first, ask what is the study question, who is being studied population, did they spell out the intervention, the methods clearly, do you have a comparator arm, do you have outcomes spelled out, is this outcome relevant to your study, did they answer the question clearly, were the definitions spelled out among what is being studied. Now that you have come so many steps, the first step was population, outcome, intervention, control. I will dare to take you through 2 more steps very quickly. Was the study design okay? There's just 3-4 slides more. The incidence of death due to COVID among young people. So young people were dying and coming in media every day. So the hospital decided to find out. A nurse collected the information. There were 25 deaths this month. 3 were less than 40-year-old. So she concluded that 12% of young COVID will die. My God, it's such a totally incorrect result. In fact, 1,000 COVID admissions happened throughout the year who were less than 40-year-old, among which 3 died. And out of the 100,000 that was screened in the hospital and outpatient basis, only 1,000 were admitted. So actual reality is 3 out of 100,000 young COVID died, that is 0.003%. This is finding a wrong answer from the study, which is also called as bias. So this is the true concluding slide. We will stop after this. How should I read an article from now on? First, is the research question clear? Did they clearly tell you at the beginning of the study what they're trying to find in this paper? Did they limit the conclusion to what question they asked and not added imaginary outcomes as conclusions? Did they spell out, and is this population the same type of patients that I treat? Is it to my interest? Did they clearly define the intervention? Can I find out from the study? Can I do the study myself? Is it so clear? Did they have a true comparator arm? And were the outcomes relevant to my patient or to me? And importantly, that you learn as you start doing this, were there any bias in the study design? Is the outcome relevant to my patient? So if you forgot most of it, if you lost me through the presentation, and you just come back because we are going to stop, then the last slide is the most important one. When you read a journal, at least ask, is this outcome relevant to my patient? And only 2 words, P and O. Is this study for me or for my patient? Thank you for reading a journal more effectively from here on. Good night.
Thank you so much, sir, for every minute
details to all those students who.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir, for every minute detail which you have told us during reading an article. Thank you for everything. So now I would invite all the question and answer session. You can please, we can have now the question and answer session, sir. The few are there in the chat box.
The chairpersons can take over.
First of all, very nice presentations from all the 3 speakers. Manoj sir, Dr. Mangalabharati, Dr. Naveen Jain. Very essential part of newborn care is now the research. Most of the upcoming doctors, especially the postgraduates, are forced to do a lot of research as part of their curriculum and all. It will be very good to have these sort of sessions in all national state conferences from now on. Now, regarding the questions, I hope you will be looking into the chat boxes. Yeah.
Mangla, there is a question for you. I can see that when you combine filters, how do they work?
Combining. So plus, have they asked for filters, sir, or is it, are they asking for a truncation? I'm not
Filters,
sure.
filters.
You can ask for plus, etc. How to search.
Okay, see, you can have any number of filters. You can activate any number of filters. There is no limitation on that. So, as I just showed in the example, what we went through, it's always good to start in a very comprehensive way. Where if you see the numbers, we started with numbers something like in lakhs. But don't worry about those numbers. Start with single keywords. Just write down your keywords. That's where you have to do a lot of work. Don't miss any keyword which is relevant to your area of search. Searching the mesh database again is going to help you. So what are the likely keywords in the index medicus? That's what you're trying to find out by searching the mesh database. Or you just take one very good article and just see what are the various keywords given. Talk to your friends, what are the likely keywords. So do searches for each of these keywords. Then you just try, you are combining all these, that's where you use OR, the Boolean operator. If you have 4 keywords, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, that's where you just get it. So you reach a stage where you have reached a reasonable number of articles, then you start using the filters. Don't start applying the filters upfront. So that's very easy because filters is just only one click. So you have various filters. The common filters what we use is the age group. People may be interested only in what to say newborn or a particular age group patients. And we don't have a filter available for preterm. That's a keyword. If you want to limit your search to preterms, you can use it as a preterm is a keyword. You have to add that keyword as do a separate search. So for the age, you can limit only to human trials. You can leave out animal trials. And you can maybe many articles published in other languages you are not interested. You can limit only to trials published in English. And the time of publication, last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever you are interested in. And the type of article. So clinical trials, randomized trials, meta-analysis, systematic review. So it's not that you can activate only one filter. So for want of time, I was not able to show that. See, one easy way is to pre-decide your filters. So if I'm allowed to share my screen, I'll just show that alone for a moment. So we are just in the same search box where we got 183 results, right? So, but this is without logging in. I have not logged in. See, you see here box here, right? Login. So this I have not logged into my account. All of you, please have an account. So that part I was not able to cover. Just it'll take only 2 minutes because it's very useful. Okay, my passwords are already there. Let me log in. You just need only an email ID to create an account. See what has happened now. So these are the routine filters are down where you need to search. You can just look for more additional filters and then try to activate any number of filters. But just see, I am. These are the filters that are. I have some 10 filters which are pre-activated in my account. I am interested most of the time to look for clinical trials, the trials done in English and humans, trials with access to free text, meta-analysis, only related newborn, last 5 years, RCTs, reviews and systematic reviews we published in the last 10 years, things like that. So you can pre-decide. That's where your my NCBA comes in. So you go to this is the accounts dashboard. Once you log into your account, I'll just show the headings alone. You try to play around by. So it shows all your filters. See, these are the filters they have activated here. I have 10 filters which are active for me. So you can choose, just click the manage filters and go there. And you have options available there for filters. I hope that was the question and I answered the question. I'm not sure. Somebody asked for plus. I don't know. But there is no role for plus. You can either add, you have to use the word and, or if you are just splitting a word, you have to use a truncation where you use an asterisk. No role for a plus sign in PubMed search, as far as I know.
Yes. Good afternoon. It has been a wonderful lectures actually lectures given regarding research methodology by clinicians is very interesting for we all clinicians. So usually it is done by research expert, but the talks by clinicians are very well accepted and will be understood by the participants. So I think regarding this, when you cannot this your clinical expertise. What I have to tell is that your clinical expertise is very important in formulating a question. The most important thing is to formulate a question and whether that question is suited for your individual patient. If you want to give maximum benefit to that individual patient, you have to formulate a question according to that patient's conditions and the patient preferences, patient values. And the clinical experience is not a substitute to the research or the epidemiology. So it should be definitely there. So it should along with that, if you practice the external evidence, practice along with the external evidences, then it would be very useful for the treatment of the patient. So what I want to ask, sir, all are very wonderful lectures. Mangalabharti sir, is that this PubMed, regarding PubMed, like you buy any brand shirts, what are the quality? Is there any quality check? What are the things that you will be assured when you look into a journal of PubMed?
So this is just only a database engine, sir, which yields you the whatever material is available with the National Library of Medicine, whatever has been indexed. So we assume that a reasonably high quality is being maintained. One of the reasons, so actually that's been cited as a limitation of PubMed. Dr. Manoj was also citing that if you want many works which are being done in the developing countries or third world is not entering into PubMed. One of the reasons could be, I'm not sure whether it is some kind of bias is also there, but PubMed sets in very strict criteria. So journals have to just when they are approaching National Library of Medicine for indexing, for getting entry into PubMed, they look a lot into this process, how an article is peer reviewed, who are the people who are coming, is it anonymous or is it known to people. So only when all the standard quality criteria are satisfied, the journal becomes enrolled. So if you are finding an article in PubMed, and I think you can reasonably be sure that you are accessing a good quality journal. But even but beyond that, I think it is left to us. Then what we have to follow the most important principles. What Naveen sir has just taught all of us. It's an individual decision to decide whether the article is good or bad.
So I think that usually there will be less questions on research methodology. And one more thing I want to tell is when you formulate a question, as Dr. Naveen Jain, actually I am proud to say that he was my student. So I'm very proud to say that. So regarding when you formulate question also, you have to look into whether it is for the diagnosis, whether it is for the treatment, and whether it is for the prognosis, and that will tell you what design you should look for. The design depends on the what you want to look at it. Is it for the treatment benefit? Is it for the prognosis, or is it for the diagnosis? So that's all I can tell you. So any questions from the audience?
I find one question from Vishnu, I think can we use all these in our Android phone? I think I mentioned that in this presentation. So in the new version of PubMed, which is existent, which is in vogue from the last year, that has been a big improvisation. So all features which are available in your desktop, you can use all these features even if you're accessing PubMed through mobile. It now runs in a cloud platform. Irrespective of the device through which you are logging in, you get access to all the features of PubMed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying all the doubts so clearly. Research methodology is usually considered as a very avoidable topic by all the students, but I'm very much grateful to all our speakers for making it so simple and understandable. I take this opportunity to thank the chairs, Dr. Ajit Krishnan and Dr. Binu Govind, for moderating the session. Hereby, we come to the end of the session. I would like to thank our speakers, Dr. Manoj sir, for helping us understand the basis of research and making it so easy for beginners like me. Next, I would like to thank Dr. Mangala Bharati sir for opening our eyes on how to access the PubMed so beautifully. And last but not the least, I would like to thank our beloved and great teacher, Dr. Naveen Jain sir, for shedding light on journal reading. I hope all of you had a wonderful evening today. I hope the audience were able to utilize this opportunity maximally. I also thank the technical team for helping us make it possible during this pandemic. Once again, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the chairs, speakers, delegates, and the audience for their active and dynamic participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Manoj sir had to leave on an emergency. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mangala Bharati. Thank you, Naveen and Ajit Krishnan, Binu. Thank you, all of you.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
So we meet tomorrow once again at 9 a.m. We have the morning, we have our conference. In afternoon, we have our Detect Neurodevelopmental workshop. So hope to see you tomorrow.
And today evening, we have the learning from legends, 7:30. I hope some of you at least should join. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
8:21.